Welcome back to our Innovators Spotlight as MedTech turns its attention to the Buffalo Niagara region as part of our Empire State Biomed Focus 22 series. I'm pleased to be joined by Kevin Lawson, the president and CEO of KSL Diagnostics and KSL Biomedical. KSL has had really an incredible year that I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about. But there's a more interesting and perhaps longer story beyond their work in COVID diagnostics. And so, Kevin, it's terrific to have you here with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invite, Wynn, and I'm happy to talk to you.
So, Kevin, let's start where I like to start with our innovators. Identify, if you can, the problem that you set out to solve.
There are a number of diseases that may be difficult to diagnose, and diagnostic tools are really important to intervene at an early stage. Sometimes they're very important for which therapeutics, if there are therapeutics, or what course of treatment to encourage the patient to pursue. And we saw a number of large market underaddressed opportunities. Some are orphan diseases, some are very common. But our background was immunology, myself and my partners. And we saw opportunities to use these novel diagnostic tools to treat disease. And we've been doing that. So we had our own internal patents to address certain diseases. We've in-licensed technologies from other organizations. Cambridge University developed a really great tool for stratifying high-risk Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis cases from low risk or less likely to flare cases, for instance. And we've partnered with other companies to develop these diagnostics. And things have gone pretty well. This platform was applicable to testing for COVID as well as a number of other conditions. But I think that the thing that we wanted to do was introduce novel diagnostics and hopefully improve patient care.
And tell me a bit, if you can, what is the KSL solution? What is it that you bring to the marketplace that you found lacking previously?
Well, one of the things that we're able to do based on a long experience in the field is develop new tests quickly. Some of the tests that we've developed in the last 6 months, weren't devised too long ago. We were able to implement either directly our own technologies or in partnership a new test that might be approved by New York State and throughout the U.S. within about 3 months. So there's speed to market in that regard. It gives us a platform to be able to provide results, impactful results to patients quickly, while we're continuing with other regulatory approvals, for instance, FDA, IVD, and international approvals. And we can do it for our own in-developed tests or partners' tests. We've done both. We have cases in the last 3 or 4 months where we've been able to gain these approvals for partner companies or independent investigators within 2 or 3 months. And then the clinical laboratory infrastructure we've built, is suitable for offering them throughout the U.S. So speed is one thing. The quality systems we've used to build them on is another. Our laboratories are ISO 15189 certified. We're the only New York State laboratory that's certified against the International Clinical Laboratory Standard. We have full licensing throughout the U.S., CAP accreditation, et cetera. So our labs are CLIA certified. They're suitable for contract research studies, clinical trials, et cetera, and clinical diagnostics. And it's something that a lot of labs don't offer. They don't have the experience with it. And then we can do test development ourselves or simply introduce tests, whether it's from a partner. We have collaborations with companies in the US, Canada, China, Italy, et cetera. And sometimes we're bringing those tests that are developed outside the US into the US, or just new diagnostics, novel diagnostics here.
So you've talked a bit about your ability to bring to market, to bring to the healthcare arena diagnostics at a much faster pace than was available previously, presumably at a much faster pace than what your competitors could do. At the risk of asking you to kind of share your secret sauce, what is your secret sauce? How were you able to 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 beat others in a process where speed is so important?
Well, I met with a company yesterday in Canada that said, we have full, in this case, it was a manufacturer, and we do manufacturing as well. But in this case, it was a manufacturer that had an ISO 13485 approval and MedSAP approval, which is approval for Canada, the US, and others that are following the same regulatory structure. And he said, we've invested a lot in these quality systems, but if I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it. It's expensive to put these things in place for a small company. It's really challenging. But the sauce isn't so secret. It's familiarity with the regulations. It's a commitment to supporting the quality systems that need to be supported in order to offer tests this way. A lot of labs don't, large labs don't do LDTs, for instance, like we do at an early stage, because there are a lot of very specific regulatory requirements in order to achieve that. They would rather get something that a manufacturer has already had approved and offer that, because there isn't that much paperwork, there isn't that much review by a regulatory authority that needs to be done. We have pretty bulletproof quality systems and regulatory compliance. And then we have experience with assay development. You may have a researcher that understands the technology pretty well. Most researchers, unfortunately, don't have access to a quality infrastructure and the regulatory experience to do this on their own. And most big laboratories, the Quests and LabCorps of the world, they're interested in large volume standard of care tests, and they're waiting for other companies like ours or specific manufacturers to introduce something new. If that test is successful, it's something that they can emulate and bring into their big engine of testing infrastructure. But KSL brings these innovative tests through a solid regulatory environment, and we've got a lot of people on our team that have a lot of experience in industry.
So let's talk a little bit about your team. Specifically, I'd love to hear from you about your own journey. What brings Kevin Lawson to this space? Not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur, to start a business, particularly one that involved some significant investments and risks on your part and on the part of your partners. What brought you to this space, Kevin?
Well, to KSL, I think I have to really give credit to the people around me. I had experience, but it's really essential that you have the right organization, the right partners. I would say I really don't envy entrepreneurs that start a company on their own without, friends, family, counselors, or, partners that they can really trust. And I have two excellent partners in Dr. Shen and Dr. Suresh, the co-founders and my partners. Dr. Shen brings great experience in translational research, and he's one of the folks that are out there identifying biomarkers and bringing them into diagnostic methodologies. Dr. Suresh is leading our laboratories. He's our chief medical officer, and he's maybe the most brightest man I know. He is multidisciplinary. He's extremely hardworking. All of those things are really important. For me, I had the fortune of, finishing at UB and joining companies in biotech, a couple of companies in biotech in the area, and it gave me exposure to the business development aspect as well as the regulatory and quality aspects. But I was, homegrown. I was a Buffalo boy. I was, born on the east side. And, I was committed to building a business in the area. I have, a tremendous appreciation for Buffalo, and I wanted to be part of the continuing economic development of the area. My partners are both transplants to the U.S., one from China and one from India, and they've both, really fallen in love with the area. They started and raised their families here. Their kids are in Western New York schools, and they have a long-term commitment to the area too. So this is something that we all felt was very important. But our hope is that we can provide a good example to other companies that want to start, and we're hoping that we're mentoring a group of people that can continue a tradition of thriving biotech businesses in Buffalo. Because if I hadn't gotten my experience with, for instance, cellular products and then IMCO Diagnostics before starting KSL, we wouldn't have moved on to found KSL. And I'm fortunate that we've got a pretty large team around us. Our organization has grown to well over 100 right now in Western New York, and we have locations in Canada and China, and we're looking at Europe as well. So we want to keep the biotech environment thriving and invigorated.
So in many ways, Kevin, I think your experience encapsulates a lot of what we've heard from others as we've explored the biomed ecosphere in the Buffalo region, and that is there's this healthy mix of kind of homegrown talent, really committed folks who have spent their lives in the Buffalo region, and folks who have come to Buffalo from all over the globe. I'm curious if you have some thoughts on kind of what is it about the Buffalo Niagara region, and most particularly its life sciences ecosphere that's allowed that kind of openness to exist?
Well, we have a few advantages. We meaning KSL. Our proximity to the border has given us a whole lot of insight and exposure to the market in Canada. One of the first acquisitions we made was a business unit in Burlington, Pulse Scientific, and we're quickly growing that business. Being in New York State, it's tough. New York State's regulatory environment is the most stringent, but if you can clear that bar, the rest of the U.S. is open to you. In addition to that, our cost structure in Western New York is lower than downstate. I think that we're pretty well situated. I look at partners. I just got back from the Bio conference and met with dozens of companies out there. There are a lot of people that we're partnered with and prospective partnerships that see what we're doing here is attractive. Having a relatively low cost of entry, with a partner that has kind of figured out the regulatory environment and is positioned to do business, throughout New York State, throughout the U.S., and potentially North America and the world, I think is appealing to a lot of them. So that said, there's fertile ground for us to grow this diagnostics business further.
Well, Kevin Lawson, I appreciate you spending a few minutes of your time with us. For folks who want to learn more about KSL Diagnostics, you can find them at ksldx.com. I encourage you to reach out to Kevin and his team. We've unfortunately just been able to kind of scratch the surface of the great work they've been doing, but KSL is a company to keep your eyes on, a real growing presence in Buffalo and across New York State. So Kevin Lawson, thank you very much for spending some time with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Wynn.